So it's been a great show. I'm Mike Letchin. Thanks for coming back and joining us. I've got a nice selective panel here. We might have a couple guys jump in and out for this last day, see how things go. But first, introduce yourselves. Tell us a little about who you are so everyone knows.
My name's Josh Folland. I'm a consultant from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Canadian, eh?
Yeah, Canadian, eh? I've been here at VMworld representing Cloud Physics. They're one of our clients. I've been helping them on some of the social media and stuff. Poking in and out of the booth, just kind of chatting with everybody and trying to contribute as much as I can.
Can you wear the Splunk t-shirt that says you can't always blame Canada?
I don't think Cloud Physics would be too happy about that.
I really just want to see a Canadian guy wear the shirt that says you can't always blame Canada.
You can't always blame Canada. We've got a lot right.
What? You figured out how to make ice. Good for you.
We've got Tim Hortons.
True. Passing on.
My name is Ahmad Yunus. I'm one of the Houston VMUG leaders. Currently, I'm a virtualization architect engineer for a financial institution and kind of guest blogging on vcentral.com right now.
Awesome. And Trevor?
My name is Trevor Pott, and I'm a writer for The Register. I work with Josh and generally walk around disturbing as much stuff as I possibly can.
Of course. It's what makes it more fun. So we've got the last day here. What is the one thing that you would say that came up this show that is the one thing you'll take back? What's the first thing, the biggest thing you'll take back from this show?
I know Trevor has a lot to say about that.
Wow.
Thanks, Josh.
And bunt!
Yeah, nice bunting there, Josh. I guess one of the biggest things that I'll take back from the show was the commoditization of the hypervisor is the overall theme of VMworld 2013. The majority of the booths that I went to said the very first thing, we support Hyper-V. We support OpenStack. We support hybrid cloud. We support managing things across, multiple different hypervisors, public, private, etc. And you got a completely different story from them if you approached them with the press badge visible and all of or an analyst tag or whatever, versus if you approached them as a potential customer. And if you approached them as a potential customer, the very first thing that they wanted to emphasize was they were going to help you end lock-in. They were going to help you walk away from single vendor. And this is a completely different story from what I've heard in past years. And I think it reflects a big change in the market that's going on right now.
So you probably see a good bit of that. You said when you're doing architecture work, are you seeing that change, that transition to not just one hypervisor and the mixed hypervisor, commoditized hypervisors?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's starting to become kind of like hardware, right? It's becoming agnostic. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, what hypervisor you're on. I think we're shifting to that kind of model. I also think the biggest thing was the virtualization of network. We're finally going to bring in the network guys into our realm.
How do you think they're going to take that?
Network
guys tend to be a bit, this is mine, you can't have it. And we're saying I'm going to bring you into my thing because you should be doing this.
I think it's going to help us more, and I think it's going to help them understand what we do, right? Because right now we just kind of say, hey, we need these ports open and whatnot, and they come back and say, well, why? And so they don't understand what we do. We probably understand more what they do, so I think now it's going to open up that bridge, right, between both of us and
get rid of some of the silos.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a big thing.
But you, Josh, what was the last thing you saw? Biggest thing you saw?
I have to agree with what Trevor and Ahmad. Sorry, I'm not very good with names. I have to say it 3 times. I'll say it 3 times before the podcast is over, and then I'll never forget about it. But helping run the booth at Cloud Physics, one of the things that I definitely ran into a lot was, do you guys support Hyper-V? Is Hyper-V on your roadmap? Are things like Citrix, all of the different hypervisors, a lot of the questions that we were getting just as a vendor. So there's a lot of interest, not just in VMware, but for all of the virtualization ecosystem as a whole, right?
So did you obviously a lot of that was in the solutions exchange on that?
Yeah.
Did you guys get to any sessions that were great, or a lab or something that really jumped out as this was a great thing to go to? Maybe that people can watch the recording.
Well, actually, no. I mean, the Register sent multiple journalists to VMworld this year, and I very purposefully stayed away from any of the official press events or any of the sessions, because I mean, I can go download the sessions on the internet, and I wanted to get a different view, sort of from the coalface of all of VMworld. So I ended up taking away a bit of a different view of VMworld than a lot of what the press did. I think that what they got as they sat through a lot of these sessions, as they sat through the official word on things, is very disconnected from what the vendors are saying and the vendors are seeing, and certainly disconnected from what I hear from every single person that I talk to as a sysadmin, a vblogger, etc. There is this huge gap between the official message and what the practitioners of these products are saying.
I can say that's definitely a difference. Not everyone gets to see that press side of things. So that press, it's always canned. Everything's canned when they're coming, so you're not going to get the full story. And you don't get the accurate story most of the time, because it's one guy that's most likely not even the one that's doing most of the deployment. Press trained.
One of the differences is that I get to go back and I get to talk with all of the other press, right? And compare notes. So it's really interesting to note the difference between how the coalface is seeing it versus how it's being presented to the press. And I think what's really going to be interesting is to read the press for the next few weeks and see how many of them came away with what the rest of the world is seeing, and how many of them are just parroting back what they're told to parrot back.
You know, one thing I'm interested in is how, vSAN and, how virtualizing storage is going to evolve. We talk about the network guys, but what about the storage guys, right?
Storage was whole first day was
right.
Storage. Yeah, they talked about networking some, but there was a lot vSAN.
Yeah.
And if you missed it, vSAN.
Yeah. So.
And I think there was a definite, I noticed that on the floor, walking through the solution exchange for sure. Number one, how many storage vendors there are right now. Like, there is a plethora. It's a virtual cornucopia of storage.
It's storage or cloud management.
Yeah.
I think, VMware would like you to know about vSAN, and VMware would like you to know about, Flash and all the rest of these storage developments. And Nutanix and SimpliVity would like to say that's cute, but ours works.
Well, vSAN, I think it sounds like a great concept. To me, it's still a 1.0 product.
It's very, very much a 1.0. You guys got to play with it at all? Oh, it's very much a 1.0. It doesn't work at scale at all right now.
Yeah, I think
it's block only. So, since I'm on Exenta, we've had quite a few conversations with VMware about basically a plugin of us to get you file on top of it, because we already do work with them.
One of the things that got me about vSAN, and this came out during a conversation I had with one of their project managers there, is now vSAN doesn't post a share. Yeah. So there is no NFS share, there is no iSCSI, there is no way to get this stuff out. Now, how are you going to access this? Are you going to access this from the API? How are you going to get your storage out? How are you going to be able to use this across multiple hypervisors into the public cloud? Supposedly, they're going to get a technical guy back to talk with me, and we'll find out more. But right now, there isn't a story around that in their marketing message. This is just, we have vSAN, it's integrated into the hypervisor, and what? So the rest of the world is moving towards this heterogeneous environment, and you have this product that just lives there.
Well, I think it's made more for kind of branch locations, but it also comes with a cost, right? You're looking at least 3 hosts just to get, the product up. And, who's going to dedicate 3 hosts just for this? And then on top of that, you also have to have some SSD drives and whatnot.
Yeah, it doesn't have the acceleration built into it.
You're looking at a pretty beefy cost up front just to get, this product up and running. So
coming out of VMworld, if there was something, what would you tell people that maybe didn't make it this year, that are watching this? What would you reasons to come, things to make sure you see, things they should do between now and next VMworld?
Well, of course, first things first, I would probably go out there and start reading about the new products, getting familiar with, 5.5. There's a lot of good things coming out.
Like not just the VMware products, too. There were a lot of releases put out on that floor this week.
Right. Go out there and also start learning automation. Automation is big and is the key. VCAC, Orchestrator, Power CLI. I mean, that's the way of the future for engineers and architects, I think. So.
I sort of have to agree, especially along the lines of the automation. While I don't necessarily, see any of the specific items that were mentioned being the future, I have to say, I mean, it's things like Puppet that are going to orchestrate your entire environment that are the future of IT.
Yeah, we have customers who run Chef with us already for their entire setup.
Yeah, Puppet, Chef, even Salt Stack is another one along those lines. And everything is
integrated with App Directory.
Everything is going about integration, about APIs, and it's if you're gonna learn one thing in the next year before you come back to VMworld, what you should learn is about how all of these different pieces are supposed to talk together so that you can figure out how to do orchestration, because the hypervisor is a commodity and it's orchestration that we're paying for now.
So how do they learn that? What avenues would you tell people back home, where do they go to figure this out? I mean, a lot of people, they're watching this, they've obviously got some resources, probably they figured this part out, but where do they go, who do they talk to, what places should they go keep an eye on, other than the register?
Brown bag.
Good answer.
Definitely a good one. There's resources all over the internet, right? So Puppet, for example, has a lot of really great training resources. Train Signal is one of the really great ones.
Pluralsight.
Pluralsight. Yeah. I mean, training, I think, is something that's going to get really, really big in IT coming in the future, because now generalists, their position in the world is starting to change, and you really need to understand things like Puppet in order to have the vast amount of control over your data center that you need to have in order to stay with the times now. Everything is getting so complicated, and everything is getting so abstracted away from that complexity.
So we talk a lot about the automation and how much we do across larger data centers. What about the SMB? Because in all reality, a lot of the SMB goes,
topic.
I have 4 hosts, I have 6 hosts.
Well,
why do I need to automate
the
it?
SMB is where I live, and what Josh and I do is a lot of SMB consulting. And
I have an apartment, but if you live at SMB, whatever.
And I think one of the biggest things is that VMware especially is retreating back into the enterprise, and it's looking to drive its revenue growth by providing new and more features for the exact same customers that it's had traditionally. It's not expanding down into the SMB. The SMB has just stagnated. No, it's not going to grow its market share by moving into the SMB. So if you are part of the SMB, really you're talking about going into Microsoft. You're talking about OpenStack a lot, especially if you want to stand up a private cloud. And I think that the SMB is far more price sensitive, but the SMB is also far more innovative. They're willing to put the sweat equity necessary into doing things
to
that
not have to put the dollars.
You would pay VMware to just take off your plate. So, I mean, VMware provides all of these tools that automate all of this stuff that the SMB is willing to throw a little bit of man hours at, but by the same token, the SMB, by necessity, it has to be as good as the enterprise in order not to get completely run over by the enterprise, but they have to do it on a tenth the budget.
So what would you say if someone said, well, VMware is looking at the enterprise and they're backing into SMB and that's why they put VCHS out?
I still don't...
And they expect the SMB is just going to they're just going to go host it.
Well, I think that VMware's belief, and I'll go so far as to say the American belief in the cloud within IT is false, because if you actually look at what cloud uptake is like, it ain't that big. And secondly, what's the other 6.7 billion of us? Chopped liver? I mean, we can't put our data in an American cloud. So we have to go with our local providers, assuming we have some, or stand up our own stuff. And I think that the SMB is not afraid of the time and effort of putting together their own clouds, or the time and effort of going to an MSP, smaller CSPs, and working with them. And I think that's going to be the big trend for the SME space, is you're going to have a lot of these companies working with smaller local cloud providers, and whereas we saw a lot of VARs and integrators in the past 2 decades, we're going to see micro cloud providers emerge. And at the moment, very little of the ecosystem for Microsoft, for VMware, for any of these is priced in a way that can work for the SMB. It's just, it's not even that the price per unit is that high. It's that the packages and putting things together are just not organized around you having a cloud of 10 hosts. And I think that's going to be the biggest change over the next few years for the SMB.
Do you think we'll see a little bit more about that in Barcelona? If your thought is Americans treat it differently, I don't think we'll see a difference in Barcelona on that.
I don't think so, because I don't think it's really sunk in yet. I don't think it has, even though VMware led into VMworld 2013, I still don't think it's really sunk in exactly how much privacy is an issue outside the United States. And when you talk to Americans about it versus talking to people from any other country, I can talk to somebody from Costa Rica, I can talk to somebody from the UK, from Australia, and they get it. They understand this innately. You talk to somebody from America, and they get angry about it. They are actually, why are you bringing this up? This isn't a big deal. This isn't something that we need to care about. Why does this matter? Why do you keep talking about this? But then I go back and I talk to the guy from Costa Rica, or I talk to the guy from the UK.
He's like, it's about time.
And they're like, yeah, okay, you know what? I know what you're talking about, and I'm angry as well. All of these people I talk to from these other countries are angry that we can't use these cloud services, because we're looking at what's on the VMworld exposition floor, and we're saying, this stuff is awesome. This stuff is amazing. This would give me a competitive advantage.
But
if only I could use it.
So we've only got another 3-4 minutes before we need to wrap up once more. So what's the one tip if somebody has challenged from their management, from a financial point of view? How would you say they get the most out of being able to come to VMworld next year, maybe? Or how do you just get the most out of it in general if you're fighting that challenge? How do you convince management to get you here? What's the one thing that made it easiest to convince management for you to get here?
I would say, the hands-on labs, definitely. The sessions, I mean, for me, I go to my management and say, instead of sending me to one training class, you're sending me to, hundreds of training classes that I get to select from and come back with a slew of knowledge, versus just having one product that I'm going, and focusing on. So I would say the sessions are probably one good way, and, to convince your management that, this is a good deal.
I think beyond that, one of the biggest things that we've seen here is the opportunity to network. You can't meet 22,000 people at this level of the industry anywhere else, especially if you're coming from the SMB, where you've only got an IT crew of 3 or 4 people, right? Maybe you can go to a VMUG or a SpiceCore meeting where there might be 20, 30 other people at some of the smaller ones, even some of the bigger ones where Trevor and I are from. But here is where you can really make the bread just by talking to people and setting up new relationships. You can find out about new things.
Those relationships that last throughout the year.
Exactly.
Whether you meet them, you connect with them on Twitter, you connect with them by email, so many different ways.
I mean, I have to agree with both of these fellows here. It's you get the training, but you also walk away not just having met people, but by seeing who's in those training sessions and by taking the time to talk to people, you get to walk away knowing that this person is the guy to go to for this. I got to meet several individuals here. John Harris here from V Brown Bag is the VCAC guy, and here he is, VCAC guy. And if I ever had a question, he is the man to go to. And I've got a list on my smartphone. It's about 400 people long of this is the brain attached to this product, or this is the brain attached to this concept. And since I'm a generalist, and especially in the SMB area, we mostly are, having access to those resources and having, shaken hands, it gives me a much better chance of them responding and saying, here's how you solve that problem.
Yeah, you put a face to a name, and all of a sudden you're friends. I mean, you're online, you catch up with them, hey, I got this. You can shoot a DM, shoot them an email. It makes a huge difference.
And what's great is these guys are out there in the community just like us. So, they're not product managers or anything. They're just like us, engineers, admins, architects. So you have that bond already,
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. So that's the last day for vExpert Daily. We've got a bunch of vBrown bags still coming up. So stay tuned, and we will catch you for vExpert next year. Have a great one. Thanks, guys.